Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. Hope you're enjoying those feet down there. We're back here with an instant match reaction. Leeds United 2, Valencia 1. Slightly annoying at the end, but look, we're not going to focus on that too much. Look, the Leeds have made a raft of changes, a whole host of changes. And as we start this video, everybody, please make sure you're slapping a like on the video. Please make sure you comment and subscribing. As always, just did a watch long, over 3,000 of you in the building. Thank you so much for your support. Cracking numbers for a pre-season watch long. And we'll be getting into that into the season as promised. Patreon as well, everybody. We've got bonus bits on there. We've got a soft launch as well for something coming very, very soon. So if you want to check that out, make sure you do so. But today, Leeds United played against Valencia. Really, really happy with it, I have to say. During the watch-along, we were maybe a little bit perturbed at the end. You could see Daniel Farke's frustration. Leeds United conceding, but it is what it is, everybody. You know, you're up against a La Liga side. Let's contextualize exactly what this side are. You know, this is a team that's finished, you know, in 9th and 14th and 9th and 13th. And that's seen as a horrendous underachievement for Valencia in La Liga, of which seasons beforehand they were finishing 4th, 5th. Obviously, not long before as well, they had Valverde and Unai Emery. So this is a very, very high established Spanish side who are underachieving right now. But they came to Ellen Road against, a second tier side. And I thought, for large portions of the game, completely restricted them. They completely lost their heads, which was hilarious to see from a professional sporting outfit in a pre-season friendly. They should have probably had 2 sendings off, as well as Rafa Mir, who should have been sent off earlier. The petulant number 9 and the kicks in the midfield that Ethan Ampadu was getting was nothing short of hilarious. And when that happens in football, it's a compliment. It's a good characteristic for the opposition player to have, because they're getting frustrated because you're too good for them at that moment in time. And they probably wanted to turn up to Leeds United and expected to turn up to Leeds United and just get away with a nice little result against the second tier side of which they expected to win. That didn't happen. They came to Ellen Road, and for the first 45, 60 minutes, they really were not in the game. And then obviously the sending off happened. Leeds were able to make a few changes, of which we did. And we started to see, like, a bit of what we're probably going to see when it comes to 10th of August when Portsmouth come to town. So let's have a little bit of a look at the side. So Illan Mele obviously started in net. Now, my sort of interpretation of Illan was it was okay. I thought he did well for some crosses. I thought he did well overall with his distribution. As I've always said with Illan, I don't think he's massively going to develop when it comes to his game. I think you're always going to see slightly risky passes and maybe risk-averse passes as well. And what I mean by that, everybody, is I think he's always going to go to the back 2 when it comes to the centre-backs. I rarely think he's going to start trying to bypass a front press. However, what I will say, with good credit to him, and credit has to be given to Illan Mele for this, we did see him a couple of times in that first half beat that front press that was initiated by Rafa Mir and hit that midfield body or hit Junior Firpo. Let's move on to the Dominican Republic left back. I thought he was fantastic again, carrying on last season's form, of which he was one of Leeds' most consistent operators. On that left, he was getting forward. I thought he was very, very, very aggressive when it came to the engagement of tackle. But also what I thought was, across the pitch, he was good inverting. He was good, going under that underlap, on that overlap as well, and really showed a high degree of confidence as well. And I think that's really nice to see with Junior. You're seeing an individual now who's really getting into his Leeds United stride, and potentially he needed that drop down to be able to really sort of elevate his game and elevate that sort of those characteristics of which we're talking about might have been a little bit of a failing at certain points in his Leeds United career. His positioning looks really, really good as well, which is something that I was watching throughout the watch along, and just seeing where he was picking up positions when we're in possession and out of possession. Out of possession is what you focus on with Junior Firpo, because sometimes he can be dawdling. It was absolutely sensational today, I thought. One of Leeds' best players. And I have to say, I thought, even towards the back end of last season, when Leeds were going through that slump of results, Jorginho Rutter was I thought one of the players who was suffering, who didn't suffer today, but in that slump when we sort of had Somerville, who was a little bit off colour, a few others who were off colour as well. You had Junior Firpo, who stepped up massively in that period, and he's carried on his form, which is great to see. Okay, let's move to the centre-backs as well. Rodon and Strauch. We know the balance there is going to be much more advantageous for Leeds. When you looked at the spectrum and the overall synopsis of the game, set pieces was my sort of big thing in terms of positives. It was also my big thing in terms of negatives as well, because what we saw, unfortunately, in the first sort of 3 corners was Allegra hitting the first man. You then had Dan James, who was also on free kicks, of which I was a little bit frustrated on because in my mindset, I want to see consistency when it comes to set pieces. In the previous friendlies, we've seen Joe Rothwell over all of them, which is exactly what you want, because then that person can build up momentum. There's no real rustiness when they're approaching a free kick, a corner or whatever, and they're able to get a real decent trajectory on the ball and invariably hit the penalty spot when it comes to corners and hit a good spot as well when it comes to free kicks. So a bit frustrating from Gruev, and a bit frustrating that the fact that we're still chopping and changing when Rothwell isn't on the pitch. But Gruev actually put a really decent ball in, of which Pascal Strout got a head to it, and then he got another head to it from a free kick as well. Fantastic to see, all of which we missed last season. And it's why I came on the channel consistently and said we need Ampadu back in the midfield, Strout at the back. You know why? To give us advantage when it comes to set pieces, but also to bring the ball out from the back. And I wanted to just stay on that topic, everybody, because when we're speaking about football, we're just going to pivot a little bit to Joe Rodon. Now, at the start, unfortunately, when he was pressed, and he was getting pressed by Rafa Mir quite high up, Joe was misplacing a hell of a lot of passes. I counted 3 in the first sort of 30 minutes. Now, that's going to happen with teams against Leeds, but I don't think teams are going to be as aggressive when it comes to a press as a Hanover were, as a Schalke were even, and of course, as a Valencia were today. I think you're going to get a lot of teams coming up against Leeds and approaching in a very different way in terms of sitting into a back 5, a back 6, and saying to Leeds, come on, try your hardest to break us down. So, all really positive when it comes to that front and Leeds United. And yeah, I think overall, when you're looking at the overall, the span of the game, Leeds were able to deal with it very, very effectively. So yeah, sorry, I'm just moving a few bits on here, as you can probably tell. But yeah, I think it was really nice to see when it came to Joe Rodon in terms of the development through the game. His passing got a little bit better, but Pascal just on that back sort of 2, in that back 2, build-up play is so much better. What do you get with Joe Rodon over Pascal? That recovery speed. If Leeds are on the turn, if a man, a Sammy Schmodix and Adam Armstrong from last season beats that man, beats a Pascal Strout, I am relying on Joe Rodon's turn of speed, because Pascal hasn't got that. But building up from the back, Pascal's one of the best you'll see at this level, top 3 defender in this division. So really positive on that front. They both look dangerous, I thought, from set pieces. I think Rodon got his head on one, Pascal got his head on the other. But what do you want to see? You want to see more consistency with set pieces, of which I think you're going to see if Rothwell's more involved. So let's move to Jayden Bogle. I think that was the sad thing for me today. The real dampener. It's not the goal of which you wanted to keep a clean sheet. Of course you did. But the dampener for me on today's performance is Jayden Bogle pulling up with that injury. He went down once and then he went down gingerly again. That's not what you want to see. It's not what you want to see. You don't want to see any sort of muscular tear, any hamstring problems, any tendon issues. And it looked like he went down because he was suffering a bit through the game in terms of just these short sprints that he was making on that right-hand side. Now, we've spoken about goal contributions coming from Bogle and Rothwell and the centre-backs and Joseph and all these pieces that fit together, which will hopefully replace that Somerville impact when it comes to goals. However, what we have to take into consideration is if Bogle's not playing, can Leeds United survive? Now, this is worst case scenario, but it did look muscular. Leeds are playing in 7 days' time. And let's hope it's just an impact injury, because what we don't want is Bogle to be out for a period of time and then him to be getting up to speed, because I don't want any more right-back problems. We had it with Spence, with Roberts, with Archie at points. We need, and this is, look, Valencia was so aggressive today that you could just see, we said it on the watch long, that something was going to happen. There was going to be an injury. Ampadu went down, Rodon went down, Bogle went down. It all looked impact-wise. So I'm looking right now and hoping that it is impact when it comes to Bogle, because if it's impact, it's probably just going to be a short-term thing. Something to keep an eye on with Bogle, but I thought it looked okay. Moving on into the midfield, everybody. Yeah. Gruev. I would say, and I don't want to come across as negative here, but I do think there's a lot of glazing about Gruev. There's people in the watch long comment sections who are saying, "Oh, he's getting forward. Look how great he looks on the ball." I personally didn't see that whatsoever, and it's not an agenda or whatever. I just think we've got a much more developed player on the bench in Joe Rothwell. Rothwell's a crisper passer, in my opinion. He's always looking forward, really direct, a real intelligence when it comes to football knowledge. And what I mean by that sounds ridiculous, but football knowledge is it sort of encompasses itself in an IQ basis. I think when he gets the ball, I mentioned on the watch long that he'll operate with a closed body and an open body, but he's not afraid to get the ball in any tight situation, which is also what I saw from Charlie Crew, which was really exciting to see. Get the ball, pick it up in every tight pocket, and even if you're being pressed, be confident in your ability. I still saw too many times today where Graves getting the ball and go inside, going backwards. I thought he looked a bit better, but I look at Rothwell and I think the balance of him and Ampadu, who we're going to move on to in a little bit, is really good. Ampadu, I thought was exquisite, absolutely exquisite. Hard in the tackle, captain-like responsibility in terms of talking to the referee non-stop with Valencia's play acting. Really, really good in terms of speaking. You saw him speaking to Rodon, you saw him speaking to Joseph, and really almost being beyond his years in terms of captain-like ability. But the play, the in-possession play is so underrated by Ethan Ampadu, and why him in the midfield is so important when it comes to Rutter as well, being able to connect that deep line phase to that attacking phase as well, not always relying on Rutter to come back and get the ball and transition and move Leeds up that pitch. It's so important that a Rothwell and an Ampadu is able to do that, so we get Rutter further up the pitch, causing damage, especially without Somerville. Really, really important we do that. But I thought Ampadu was absolutely exquisite today. You know, on the ball, always play one excellent ball with his left foot about 40 yards out to Dan James. You know, this is what we missed in the midfield, and that was never replaced by Grave. You know, whatever glazing people will have about, oh, he came in the first 2 games, he was ripping balls everywhere. No, he wasn't. I don't know where that's come from. Maybe a couple of balls. But overall, Greve is a very handbrake safety player, and I just think you get a little bit more attacking impetus with a balance of Ampadu and Rothwell, and also that physicality, which I think helps as well. But definitely my captain, as Richard says. Pedro's in the building. Hey, Connor, love the reaction. Cheers, buddy. Fabrizio just confirmed Somerville signed contract. Instant reaction. And what is the next step? Joe Shaw as well. That was impressive. No more outs, please, Leeds. Shout out a member for 6 months. Thank you so much, mate. But yeah, we're going to get onto just a little bit of that in a second, mate. I'll star your comment when it comes to Somerville. Don't worry about that. Going up the pitch anyway. So the midfield was good. Love the balance with Ampadu in there. Jorginho Rutter. Now, we need to, in my opinion, keep hold of this guy. We need to keep hold of him. And this sounds very basic and very obvious, but I feel like a movement of Somerville and Rutter would be a little bit of a problem in terms of getting Leeds' creative spark. Somerville was a creator. He was an innovator. He was a goal scorer as well. Ruthless, but his creative spark was there as well. I think that gets overshined a little bit. Rutter is just a magician when he's still got developments to his game. We all know that, but I think the developments to Rutter's game literally make him a Champions League footballer. I think if he was able to finish, I think if he was able to be maybe a little bit more ruthless in moments, of which we see him get into, his physicality, how athletic he is, how the ball sticks to him, this kid would be a Champions League footballer. There's absolutely no question about it. And Dortmund probably thought the same when they came in for him last season for 30 million quid. And Brighton probably with something very similar in mind. He is the metronome. He is the complete genius in this team. And in terms of bringing the ball forward and creating things out of nothing, he is the Pablo Hernandez in sort of a little bit more of a dynamic and different form. He is wonderful, a wonderful player to watch. We were trying to think of synonyms to describe him on the watch along. Magician, sort of dazzling. Just so many more. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can think of them in the comment section below. But really the jewel in this Leeds side when it comes to attacking presence. And it does feel like the reason I think Leeds have got to do something in the offensive part of the play is something I maybe saw today was the fact that he was very, very reliant on him. And as much as I love Nonso, and I do believe Nonso is going to get into it a little bit, I do think it's going to take a while for him to take over that Somerville mantle, which is massive and a huge gap to fill. But what I will say is Nonto's looked excellent in pre-season. Today wasn't amazing, wasn't great. But what I will say today is, when you look at the caliber of opposition who are, a notoriously, when you look through history, a top 6 La Liga side, one of the biggest sides in the country, probably top 4, top 5, Valencia, huge club. That you're coming up against a good team there, and you're not going to be coming up against caliber like that week in, week out. You will be coming up against your Schalkes and your Hanovers week in, week out, Bundesliga 2 relative level to Leeds United. So, yeah, really, really happy in terms of what I saw from Rutter, and his finish was pretty much goal of the season before the season starts. If you've not seen it, you've got to go back and watch Rutter's goal. If Messi had have done that, people had been talking about it for years and years to come. It almost reminded me a little bit of Messi against Bayern Munich at the Nou Camp, when he just waited for Neuer to sit down and then chipped in with his weak foot. Wasn't with his weak foot, but the more impressive thing about Rutter with this goal is he sat the goalkeeper down. The goalkeeper came out, narrowed the angle. He also sat the defender down and chipped the goalkeeper. And there was still 2 men on the line, of which the ball tucked in the corner. It was a unbelievable finish. Unbelievable finish. And that is Premier League class that we've got right there. And as much as I do back the 49ers, and as much as I do speak about Leeds United and how we're going now, and how I still think we're favourites for the division, I will say that you lose a Rutter, I think it's a bit of a different conversation. I do believe that. I think right now, if we were to lose Rutter, I would probably be talking, especially if we didn't make any additions on top of Rutter, I think you'd probably be looking at a top 6 finish in my mind space. I think losing him will be too much. I think it'd be too much of a void to lose him and Somerville. It's too much of your creation, and you have to replace that, which is going to be difficult. It's difficult to replace Somerville anyway. Will Leeds do that in the form of Nonto, or will Leeds do that in the form of Nonto and then have a backup in Raksaki? Or if Leeds did lose Nonto on a permanent, would we go out and get a Jack Clark? That's the sort of scenario we're looking at right now. But yeah, excellent. Really, really excellent. And we know what we're getting from Jorginho Rutter. And looking across the line as well, Peru, who came on, the speed of thought needs to get a little bit quicker. I thought when Aronson came on, he looked really good. I saw nice little interchanges with Firpo as well on that side, which was a bit of a development on that left-hand side from what we saw against Schalke, because I thought that he was a bit sluggish in decision-making. Looked really good. Nice link-up play. Thought Verba looked really strong when he came on. Great passing out from the back. Wasn't phased by the occasion of coming on at Ellen Road and it not been probably an ideal reception from him with what happened, obviously, last summer. But he wasn't phased by it whatsoever. Looked really strong, really good. Really impressed with him. Leeds went to a back 3 as well. The Bayo was on the right-hand side of that back 3. Thought it looked comfortable in possession. Was good seeing him get forward as well. Rodon looked comfortable across with Verba, with Pascal as well, which was good to see his acclimatization to both, and including Adebayo as well. But yeah, and then we move a little bit further forward. We speak about William Onso, and we've spoken about James. James, I thought was okay. He was okay. It's what you get from DJ, isn't it? It's the energy, the endeavour, the speed, and we know that we're going to get the best out of Dan James by playing that ball over the top. When the ball's at his feet and he's got defenders in front of him, I don't think he's as good as he is with the ball in behind. Look, that's not me telling you something you guys don't know. It's pretty obvious. But what I will say is, yeah, I thought he had a good game today. And going forward, look, yeah, I think it's probably Daniel Farke's biggest mistake last season, the misuse of substitutions. And we are seeing that in abundance when it's come to Matteo Joseph. I think that's 5 goals in pre-season now. And look, we don't want to live in the past. I don't want to keep bringing this back there, of course. But my sort of big criticism for Daniel Farke is not utilising this guy from January onwards last season, because he'd have got us 6 to 8 points easily. Your goal contribution is probably more than that as well. But he's an absolute menace. He's an exceptional finisher. He sniffs out, real opportunities. And I genuinely believe Daniel Farke 100% could have used him in phases last season, and I think he neglected that, and that's a big. I think that would have got us up, utilising Matteo Joseph a little bit more, because there was margins where we just needed something fresh, and he didn't utilise him enough. But it's great to see him probably looking at the error of his ways now and utilising Matteo Joseph as that number 9, because you know how good he is. You know how good he is. So yeah, really, really happy with that. So lots to discuss, lots to be happy about. It was a fantastic finish from Joseph as well. Really, really happy with that. And I guess, if we're getting into the super chat from Pedro here, just asking about Crysencio Somerville, I think it's definitely something that we can move on. Definitely something we can move on in terms of bringing an accurate replacement, a very good replacement as well. Will he ever replace Crysencio Somerville? No, because Crysencio Somerville, arguably with Adel Taarabt up there with, some of these top championship players, is one of the best you'll ever see to do it. This is a guy who's probably going to play Champions League football. This is a guy who might even use West Ham as a stepping stone, but he is unequivocally a Premier League starter. So we've had him at that level for a period of time now, which we've been really lucky. So you're not going to be able to replace that. So what can you do? Well, you can target some of the attributes that he brought to this Leeds United side, and there are adequate replacements that will do a job at this level. You talk about, I've mentioned Raksaki several times, but another one who you can bring in there if you were to lose Nonto as well is Jack Clark. You know, if you went balls to the wall for him, listen, I think that'd be a really good addition as well. Would he come back to Leeds? Don't know, but you know, if you're able to discuss maybe Premier League expectations for Leeds United, could you sell the dream to Jack Clark? He lives in York, and I know that for a fact. Obviously, with me living or me being from living in York, born in Leeds, but living in York for the majority of my life, Jack Clark is from that region. So would he come back home? I think so. I think there's a good selling point there. You know, would Leeds be able to do that? Who knows? But yeah, depending on the value, I think Leeds could definitely target that if Willie Gnonto was to leave as well. But there's enough capital there. We've made nigh on 70, 80 million plus in terms of transfer fees. We know a lot of that had to be set against the accounts, but Leeds should be an extremely positive position and in the green when it comes to financial might right now. And what do I expect? I do expect Leeds to do big business. Yeah, I do. With a month left, I expect us to be strong when it comes to the market. Now, I would hope that the 49ers are now looking at this and thinking, okay, well, we've done it now. We've sold Archie. We've sold Somerville. And if we want a real chance of getting up, promoting this lot, promoting everything, getting that globalization and that marketing spot on, we simply have to keep hold of some of our best assets. And Jorginho Rutter needs to be one of those. I think Gnonto needs to be one of those as well. And we need to add a few still. I agree with a lot of you who were talking about depth, but yeah. I'm still worried about our depth. Yeah, hear you. A lot of people are saying that, and I hear you. Call Rutter Jack Russell because he's a little terrier going forward. Thanks for Somerville. Yeah, a lot of really good comments coming in here. Fred says, impressed overall. Would like to see Leeds going for a Clark for a Somerville replacement and also a more creative midfielder. Sarah would have been perfect. Crypto Steve says, Clark plus defender. You are very strong. You 100% are, mate. Imagine Somerville being fed by Paqueta as opposed to Kamara. Jeez, yeah, they've got a scary front line, haven't they? Bowen, Kudus, Paqueta, Somerville. Yeah, West Ham could be doing decent next season. Bro, every single breakdown on every play you just did was dead spot on. Always a massive thanks for the content. Calling it a night here in Tasmania. Top man, Rich, thanks for your kind words, mate, and you have a good one, buddy. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. It's been a really interesting and happy sort of day. It's another great result for Leeds United. We roll into Portsmouth with a 2-1 win over a La Liga side. Head on over to the Watch Room if you want to see some highlights. We are going to be uploading to the Patreon very soon as well. Head on over, link in the description below. We're going to be doing a soft launch of something that I've been working on throughout the off-season as well on the Patreon. That's going to be exclusive over there, and then we're going to move it over to One Leeds HQ here. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Once again, please like the video before leaving. We're going to be back with more reaction tomorrow, as always. As I say, head on over to the Patreon. Simple £4 a month. That helps the channel. You can be a YouTube member as well for £2 a month. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'll see you on the other side. Cheers.